So I was trying to think of what would be a good topic for a new year, and as I started, I knew we were going to do a Holy Supper service this week, and I ended up getting stuck into Exodus chapter 12, which is where the Lord is giving Moses all the rules for Passover. And here's an Aaron in the land of Egypt saying, "Month shall be your beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you." I don't know how many times I've read the story of Passover, but I never clicked in my mind that Passover is now January 1, right? This is the first month, this is the beginning of the year. And it's like, oh, well, what a lovely thing to, a nice coincidence for us to say, okay, we're going to do a Holy Supper at the beginning of the year, and this is the beginning of their calendar. And they're about to embark on a whole new life, right? They're gonna give this ritual for Passover, and the next morning they're gonna get up, head out of Egypt, and just start all over. And that's what a lot of people, I think, try to do when it comes to New Year's resolutions. They say, okay, well, you know what? Last year I had these problems. I wasn't doing these things very well, but we got a clean slate. The next year I'm going to start a new life. I'm going to begin a new habit or hobby, whatever it is. I'm going to do something new. Got a clean slate for the new year. Off I go. But a lot of our New Year's resolutions, well, what do you think they are? What are the, any ideas? What are the most popular New Year's resolutions? I got a list of them here. What do you think the number ones are? Diet. Yep. Exercise. Yep. Those are numbers 2 and 3, but not number 1. I was surprised.
Not swearing.
I don't think that's on my list. Not swearing, huh? No.
Be a better person.
Be a better person.
Keep your word.
Sorry?
Keep your word.
Keep your word. That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, I don't see that on here. Yeah, so improved fitness was number 2. I was surprised it wasn't number 1, quite honestly. Smoking made the list, but not number 1.
What was number 1?
Lose weight is number 3. And then 4 was diet. 5 is improved finances. All right, so those are pretty good, solid ones. Number 1 this year.
Oh, this is specifically this year.
Sorry, for 2023. So for last year's New Year's. Number 1 thing that came up: improve mental health. Improve mental health. And the stats on it was surprising in that it was the 18 to 25-year-olds that really catapulted that to number 1. That group had the greatest focus on that. The older groups, 26 to 41 and 42 to 57, it was high up for them as well. But the younger ones really felt like that was a priority.
They had the hardest time through COVID.
Exactly. That's exactly what they come back saying. Yep, they had the
But
most.
even in the Google searches, funnily enough, how to pray and all of that, how to pray and prayer, that just went off the roof, off the charts. Just interesting.
Yeah. So, kind of surprised that 2023 that was the number 1. Other ones that are kind of interesting is, make more time for loved ones, meditate, perform better at work, stop smoking, somebody said that, improve work-life balance, learn a new skill, drink less alcohol. But, drink less alcohol was the lowest. It was way at the bottom of the list. So, yeah, I would have thought that would have been a big one. Yeah, improve mental health, fitness, weight, diet, and look, fitness, weight, and diet. I mean, those are reasonable goals, right? But they're not necessarily spiritual goals. Um, it's important to take care of your body, and there are spiritual uh, parts of trying to get yourself in shape. I mean, it takes work, it takes discipline, it takes sacrifice. These are spiritual qualities. So, those things are good, but it's not on the same plane as improving mental health. And so, what I did is I looked at the Passover rules and regulations and said, all right, well, what do these little components mean? Because there's a lot of details, particularly around the lamb that is being offered up. And well, what do all these things mean? And how could we maybe take those and create other New Year's resolutions that are better than just diet, exercise, and fitness? What was the other one? Diet, exercise, losing weight. So, if you look at the order of service, and shit, if you don't have one, so you can look on somebody, I got a table there for you to help you see. This is not every word in the scripture, but I tried to get the main points. It says, on the 10th month, the 10th of this month, every man shall take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. So you see, 10 says it's about starting a state of goodness. 10 is often used as about remains, how we are trying to establish, God's establishing something good in us as like a touchstone to call back on. We talked a little bit about this at the Christmas service. The joy and the magic we have at Christmas as kids is service to us later in life. Lamb represents innocence, but the house of his father says it's according to each one's specific kind of good. So if you're starting off a New Year's resolution, it's telling us that we got to start from a place of goodness first. It's not about knowledge, it's about goodness. But what I really found fascinating is like according to each one's specific kind of good. The writings expand on this a little bit and talk about how, well, yeah, you're supposed to approach this, what is it that you do well? So perhaps making New Year's resolutions is saying, okay, well, start it, what it is that you do well, what you love doing, what's kind of in your family, as it were, and have that kind of innocence, that Christmas magic and innocence with it that helps you decide where is it you want to go with in this case, Passover. It says, your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. So, spotless innocence, right? You haven't corrupted it with, any sort of greed or vanity or anything like that. It says the male means which is characteristic of faith rooted in charity. So again, this is more about the love side of things, not the intellectual. Shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. 14, you're going to see 7 and 21 appear here. They are all multiples of 7. 7 is about holiness, about having the Lord present in it. And so therefore it says when it's the 14th day, this process of Passover is holy. And they shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and on the lintel of the houses where they eat it. On the houses means the desires of proposing a will that seeks what is good. So, New Year's resolutions is about, spiritually, it would be about seeking something good. So you see this every step of the way. It's been about goodness and innocence, not about truth, knowledge, intellect. Here we go again. They shall eat the flesh that is on that night roasted in fire. Means that roasted in fire means that good is a product of love. With unleavened bread and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. It means you're going to go through the unpleasant experiences of temptation. Do not eat it raw, nor boiled at all with water. It must not be devoid of love, nor boiled at water means that it must not come out of truth. So everything regards that lamb has to do with coming into a state of goodness. All right? Helps to have some context here, right? Remembering what Egypt was about. You know, if you're in the land of Egypt symbolically, this was a land of materialism because, well, they had all the knowledge, they had all the stuff, and they became slaves to the materialistic life. So when we're coming out of that, well, we have to leave that behind. And where do we start? Well, we start with goodness. This is the symbol of Esau and Jacob, right? Esau is the oldest. We start with good, move on from there, and then we learn the truth. But we have to start with that the heart stuff. So with this in mind, how do you pick a good New Year's resolution, something that's spiritual, and say, this is what I'm going to do for the next year? I mean, and you don't, so I'm looking for feedback here as to what you think might fit this description. And I will say, you don't have to say this is that you're going to do this. I'm not trying to put any undue pressure. But think kind of academically, if you want. I mean, what would make a good resolution based on this idea of coming from innocence, love, and holy state, something that you're good at? Now, how do you transform that into a New Year's resolution?
Well, I can tell you what mine is.
All right.
To get closer to God.
To get closer to God. Yeah? Yep. That's a good place to be. Okay?
So I think what's really interesting is that that people understand that, okay, they kind of go, okay, the world's this way, but they're unhappy in themselves, and unfortunately, the meaning of their suffering, they believe, is the suffering itself. I've got anxiety, I've got depression, I've got or whatever. But the Swedenborgian thing is that the presence of God can come like a light or a sun that can actually come into your understanding as wisdom and come into your heart as warmth or love. So that the life, that the problem is not psychological as such. It's the deprivation of God's love and wisdom that is the problem. But that's not seen because, like Western psychology, for example, always remains on the external. There's depression, there's anxiety, there's hostility, there's interpersonal conflict, there's meaninglessness. All of those are manifestations. But they take the meaning to be either past events that caused it or there's something wrong inside your mind. But they never get to the core of what you're talking about. The good is the transforming factor. The life that is God is the transforming factor, not doing this or getting this or whatever. But it has to start from there. And St. Augustine had that beautiful prayer, my heart is restless until I rest in thee. People have that longing.
Yeah.
But they confuse it with other, like psychological craving, which is different. One comes from the real heart. The other comes from our state of alienation from God. So it's a very interesting thing that there's a recognition that there's something here. They don't actually see the meaning of it because there's no reference to find the meaning of it because it's totally materialistic.
Yeah. It's materialistic. There's no way to see it because it's not there. So how do you transform that into a task, a goal? This is what I want to do. How do we take it from, all right, I want to see goodness. Like what is a person to do? Is it to say, a good New Year's resolution is, I'm going to read the scriptures every day. I'm going to read a chapter a day for a year. Or, there are reading plans where you can read the whole Bible in a year kind of thing. Is that a good New Year's resolution? I think it is.
I think it's a means to an end.
A means to it,
Like just the reading of it is good, but if you still live the life in your head and not loving it, it's not
right.
doing that thing.
It's a tool to achieve the goodness. Yeah, fair enough. I keep coming back to that opening verse, the house of his father, according to each one's specific kind of good. Um, so to me, it's like God's making this easy on us, as easy on us as He can. Saying, all right, take something that you love doing, that you're good at, that some skill, whatever it is you have, and start with that. You know, Ralph's a carpenter. What is it that would be a good resolution around that? Is it saying, okay, well, I'm good at auto mechanics, carpentry, fence building, teaching, whatever it is, and therefore the Lord's calling us to say, take that skill and use it. Go out. Sorry?
Give freely of it.
Give freely of it, yeah.
Yeah, that's what's interesting about the Swedenborg teaching, in the sense that it's only when we live the good and the wisdom in the form of usefulness, which is specific to our life. It's not it's like what Kierkegaard said, that truth is never away from the situation of the knower. Otherwise you get all abstract. The fact of what does it mean to live wisdom and goodness in my concrete particulars?
Yeah.
Because that's unique to me. It's different to you.
Yep.
Yeah, it could be the way you do that stuff that you're very good at.
All right.
Bring more love into it, bring more awareness into it.
Yeah. Well, and then we're talked about. Oh yeah. So the next one is the male characteristic of faith rooted in charity. And if you dig into what Swedenborg defines as charity, some of you who've been around a long time might recall the number one thing of charity is what? Stop being evil. The first of charity is to shun evils as sins. We often think of charity in terms of doing good, but stop doing evil first, then do the next. So it's what this picture is, okay, childlike innocence. We have this lamb, something you're good at. Get rid of all any evil side of it, any sort of vanity, greed, all those kind of things. Ego, pride, whatever it is you want to, put into this thing you're doing that you're good at. Oh, it's like saying, okay, be nice to people. Don't do it for the sake of reward. Be nice to people because, well, that's the right thing to do.
Or you could also recognize that your good comes from God, not from you.
Yep, that's right. That's definitely part of the deal. And then let's move on a little further. It goes on. I didn't piece this part out because it's a bit easier to understand without the table. So this day shall be to you a memorial, and you shall keep it as a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. You shall keep it as a feast by an everlasting ordinance, right? So you're going to get to do this forever. 7 days, holy, you shall eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall remove leaven from your houses. For whosoever eats leavened bread from the first day unto the seventh day, that person shall be cut off from Israel. All right, we know we do unleavened bread in Holy Supper services, and it starts here. Any new church scholars amongst you remember what leaven corresponds to? I thought Joel might ring up on this one. No. Well, yeah, leaven is a fermenting process, and but it's falsity. It's falsity, and it's this idea that falsity can actually bring about a good end in the course of wine, right? So we have Jesus says, "I am the vine, you are the branches." What do we produce? Fruit. So if we are the branches, we produce grapes. You take grapes, you add a fermenting agent to it, and there's this process where the dregs fall to the bottom, the clarified wine is rises to the top. We take the wine, and And what is that? That's wisdom. Water is truth, but wine is something that's gone through a process. You've taken something, you run it out there, and it's experience, right? You know certain things, but then when you actually do them, you learn something more, and you have the wisdom of experience. So leavening in bread has the same function. The bread rises, it's this kind of internal combat, but it starts because there's some false belief that starts the process. Leavening and yeast is false belief, and that's why when you have your truth, you go out and do something, you go, oh, well, guess what? What I thought was true, actually, well, I didn't have it quite right. And that's how you gain the wisdom. So as you run this back to unleavened bread, this process of Passover and Holy Supper, the Lord is saying, no falsity here. This is going to be pure. This is going to be pure, devoid of all untruth. And so there's the other aspect of it. Well, it takes time for fermenting to happen, and they're going to have to leave in a hurry. So there's part of that story there too, that they can't do that because of the time factor. But Swedenborg's very clear. The real reason it has to be unleavened bread is because leavening is about falsity. Jesus says to the Pharisees, or just to the people, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. Beware of the leaven of the Sadducees. Watch out for that. And so, of course, they're all taking it literally. What do you mean? We don't have enough bread? It's like, no. Don't you understand? I'm not talking about bread. I'm talking about things they teach. Verse 16. On the first day there shall be a holy convocation, and on the seventh day there shall be a holy convocation for you. No manner of work shall be done on them, but that which everyone must eat, that only may be prepared by you. So you shall observe the feast of the unleavened bread, for on the same day I will have brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you shall observe this day throughout your generations as an everlasting ordinance. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. All right, so some sevens there, right? It's all a holy process. For 7 days, there's another one. No leaven shall be found in your houses, since whoever eats what is leavened, that same person shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he's a stranger or a native of the land. You shall eat nothing leavened. In all your dwellings you shall eat unleavened bread. So, lamb from your house, cooked in fire, not boiled, not raw, unleavened bread. I mean, this is, the Lord's saying, you got to come at this from the highest state possible. Highest state, and it really is that childlike innocence, and you're adding none of this false belief to it. So, when you think of the Holy Supper that we'll do here in a couple minutes, think about, well, how can you come from this place? This is what the Lord's asking for us to come from this place. Is there something practical that you could implement into your life that's coming from like that part of you that probably don't even talk about that much? That part of you that's would love to do something. I'd love to do this. But it's not realistic. I'd love for this, but I'll get hurt. If I put myself out there, I might get my feelings hurt. Somebody might, say bad things about me. What is it that we could do that would really bring that childhood part of us into the world? What is that part that we could do that would bring real goodness? And it's going to be different for each one of us. So, you look puzzled.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to think of examples of that.
Yeah, and it's the hard part in this exercise, I think, is that it is different for each person. As to what the Lord's asking. What is it that you do, you love doing, you do without ego, no false beliefs, nothing attached to it that's negative. And then as you eat of it, right? The last piece of this whole puzzle. You prepared the meal, you're eating it, you're making it part of your life, right? That's what consuming food and drink is. You've taken it, you've assimilated it, it goes out into your body, goes out there.
What if we can't think of anything?
But you can't think of anything. Well, the good thing is it doesn't have to start right now. You know, you can think it over, but I think this is trying to point your mind into a place of where you do think about it. You do reflect on, well, what is it that I could do? Sometimes you come to Holy Supper and we think about, well, Lord, help me with this problem. And I don't think that's kind of what he's actually asking for us to do. He's saying it's coming from a place of, all right, Lord, how can I be of service? What else could I be doing?
So we don't have to follow the spoke about the internal, that's good. We'd have to follow the external stuff to the world.
No.
It's really incredible. Amazing, that just picked something in my mind.
Yeah.
A couple of words of places, you know. The Serbs, Croatians, and the Greeks do it. They build a new house and they slaughter a lamb and sprinkle the blood all over it.
Ah.
So that's not necessary, is it?
No.
No, because I spoke to a friend of mine about that, and I said, don't you think that's following the way of the pagans? I mean, is it? I mean, we don't really have to do that.
No. You know, Jesus says that the Holy Supper is what takes over for the whole
Exactly.
Passover thing. And Swedenborg says there's really only two sacraments that remain: baptism, Holy Supper. So.
And when you mentioned the unleavened bread, that's, I remember speaking about that once before. Did you say that the unleavened, that introducing falsities, you can't eat the unleavened bread because there's no falsities there?
That's exactly right.
Is that exactly right?
Yeah.
I remember you talking about that once before.
Hey, great. So, yes, unleavened bread is about having no falsity mixed in with your goodness. Yeah. Any other comments, thoughts? Any ideas for how you would do a New Year's resolution on that? Otherwise, let's say the Lord's Prayer together. And let's do the whole